Hey, I'm Patrick from Possum Bourne Motorsport, and today I just wanted to tell you a bit about our tuning process and tell you a bit why we are the industry leader in performance vehicle tuning. So follow me inside. Over the past 30 years, we've developed and refined our tuning process and come up with a tuning procedure that will ensure that every car leaves the workshop perfect, with the top quality and with consistent results, one car after the other, and there's no surprises for the customer. The first step of our 9-step tuning process is the customer consultation, and we've got a little form here that we go talk to the customer about. This is just to ensure that we're meeting all their demands, make sure they have the best result and the car tuned to their requirements and not just a generic tune. During this consultation, we talk about things like what boost level you want to run, what fuel you're going to use, what modification you've got, and if you plan any further modifications further down the line. And it also gives the customer a chance to ask questions if they are unsure about a few things and what's the best way to go about their car. The next step in the process is our pre-dyno inspection. That's when your car comes into the workshop and we go through a checklist. This is just to prevent common issues, simple things that can cause problems while the car is on the dyno, and we do as much as we can to avoid anything holding the vehicle up on the dyno, to A, keep the workflow going, and to B, make sure that your car doesn't get damaged during the process. So some of the things on the checklist that we look at are fluid levels, commonly spark plugs. We also check if there is a wideband port in your exhaust that is required for tuning. We check things like boost leaks, especially if there's a front mount intercooler setup. Just a visual inspection, anything that could cause problems, catch on fire, fly off, just anything that's safety related. Make sure that the tires are good. A critical part of the inspection is the fuel flow test for especially lightly modified vehicles. If they are older, pumps are usually not at their peak performance anymore, and that can cause problems of the car leaning out on the dyno. So we perform a fuel flow test, make sure that the pump is still delivering what it should. A very important part of the tuning process is our dyno as well as our monitoring equipment that we install on your vehicle. Part of that is a NOx sensor, air fuel ratio sensors, all of that, to make sure that the results are consistent and safe. These need to be very accurate, and we can always keep an eye on them while we're tuning your car. The next step in the process, once your car is on the dyno, is to set up the ECU. And the first starting point is, do you have a aftermarket ECU or factory ECU that's getting reflashed? If it is a factory ECU, we look at things like engine warning lights and codes for emission control or things like that, or speed cut features that we can deactivate. If you have an aftermarket ECU, it might be safety features or motorsport features that we turn on and adjust before we begin the tuning process. Step 5 of the process is to tune the light load and cruise conditions, and we do that for a number of reasons. Number one is that this is an area that you'll be driving in most of the time, so your car is probably 95% in these conditions, so we need to make sure everything is perfect and it drives like a brand new factory car. The other reason is that the engine is not under as much load yet, and we can identify problems early on and are not risking any damage to the engine. Step number 6 of our tuning process is the full power tuning. That's the part that everybody likes to enjoy, and that's where all the videos are made. Now we be pushing the vehicle and adjusting fueling, ignition and boost levels. If there's variable cam control, we also advance and retard the timing, and we see how the vehicle responds to each change until we have a perfect result. Once we are happy with the power the car makes, we're off to throttle optimization, and that's to make sure the throttle feels nice and crisp, especially on aggressive on and off throttle conditions.
Hi, my name is Chris. I'm Possum Bourne's tuner, and I have been doing this for at least 10 years. This is pretty much my passion. I love driving cars on dynos and modifying ECUs. And pretty much the main reason for this is because I really love electronics and all the physics involved on an engine tuning process. So it's actually something that really suits me. We have been developing the tuning process here on Possum Bourne for a long time, where our goal is to suit your needs and evaluate properly how your car is before going into the dyno, so we can catch all the problematic issues before being on the dyno. One of my favorite cars to tune here was the 180SX from Jamie Norton's. It's a pretty mint car, and it was quite a nice build. Another one of my favorite cars here was Thomas Joe's Evo. That car ended up doing something around the 400 kilowatt mark, and it was pretty fun to work with and especially to drive.
One of the final steps in the tuning process is to perform a cold start check where it is required. We let the car cool down overnight and then come back the next morning once it's completely cold and just make sure that all the values are correct, and then the car is performing well at cold start. So the final step of the process is to take your car on a test drive, and we do this because on the road the car does behave a little different, and sometimes we need to do minor adjustments to allow for that, and obviously that's very important because your car is going to be driven on the road all the time. So that concludes our 9-step tuning process, and I hope it's given you a good insight in what happens to your car once you drop it off here. And yeah, you understand a lot better what happens and that you can trust us to deliver a great result.